Hello YouTubers and chess fans, it's Mike and welcome to my new video lesson. In this video, we will see game with the unequal exchange of the queen as a main topic. What is an equal exchange of the queen? That is exchange of queen for the material of same value. That's for example when you exchange your queen for three minor pieces. And there is a general tendency towards this kind of play, because it leads to unexplored paths of chess struggle and creates unclear results of that struggle. Furthermore, if you take into observation that chess players have their opening repertoire, this way of fight is interesting because while positional pluses and minuses are clear to players, positions are unusual to play. And this is the game between Lanka and Gaueps, which is played in 1983, and White opened the game with e4, e6, d4, d5. This is French defense, and black has more spades on the queen side, to put it briefly. Some topics for black in this kind of defense. So black tends to focus on that side of the board, and he almost always plays c7 to c5, with pushing of course b and a pawn. The main drawback for black in such a kind of position is this light squared bishop, so black will try to get rid of that bishop during the play. On the other hand, white plays on the king side of the board. He's going for king side expansion, um, for some fast mating attack, or for pushing the e4 to e5 and f4 pawn to support center, and or going with h pawn for the favoring of the endgame. And there is one modern idea for the white also to play with b pawn and a pawn on the with, for example, a2 to a3 with, and to b4 to make restriction for black king queen side expansion and play. In our game, white continued with knight c3, knight f6. This is the main and classical answer to knight c3 in French defense. There is also another variation, for example, with e5, of course c5, a3, asking the bishop to make the choice, of course taking the knight and doubling the pawns, but there is a equal game later on. Or for example, to play Rubinstein variation with d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight d7, knight f3, knight g f6, knight takes, and knight takes, with again pushing to c5, and this is a solid line for the black, especially for drawing. In our game, after knight f6, bishop g5 pinning the knight, bishop e7 unpin the knight, e5 pushing the knight, knight f to d7, exchange of the bishops, f4, so white starting his kingside expansion, black castles, knight f3, c5, important move for the black, bishop d3, aiming this pawn for some kind of Greek sacrifice motifs. And there is a wondersome continuation for the black, because he allows this kind of Greek sacrifice in French defense. He plays c takes d4, attacking the knight, and bishop check the king. What will happen if, for example, white go knight b5 and trying to get rook in the corner? Then good continuation for black is f6, and now knight c7 attacking the rook, f takes e5 and threatening to attack double, to fork these two pieces, f takes e5, and now knight takes e5, attacking the knight and threatening to check on f3. So if white continue with the taking the rook after this check, g takes f3, and this check with the queen, and king to d2, black is better because white lost this right to castle, and his knight will be easily captured with the pieces, so black would have here initiative. Because of that, white continued with check with the, on h7, king takes, knight g5 check, and here is the choice for the black, but in this game it's forced variation because of these threats, and black cannot support his defending with the knight because of this pawn, so black choose to play to sacrifice, to exchange the queen, not sacrifice, exchange the queen for three pieces minor, and this knight is second piece. Queen takes, bishop on h7 was captured with the king, it's first piece. F takes g5, and now d takes c3. Queen to d3 check, and king is going to g8, and queen takes c3. Black minor pieces will come into game very fast, while on other hand white's queen can't produce any real threats. This is important when you sacrifice queen positionally, but it's the same thing when you exchange your queen for three minor pieces like in this case, and material remain the same. It's the same principle, which is very important to not have any weakness in your position when you're doing this. Uh, let's just see, for example, this variation, why this kind of play is something tricky. For example, if white castles here with this plan to double rook and the queen on the h file, black needs to defend precisely. For example, taking e5, queen checks the king, king of course going to g8, and now rook f4 to make mate threat, knight g6, attack the rook and defend this square, rook f3, now trying to go to h3, e5, now bishop protects h3, b takes c3, doubling the pawns, knight to c6, rook to f1, doubling the rooks, bishop e6, and with these double pawns in the center, black is the one who is pretty okay and with initiative. But after this move, white played check on d3, g8, and he took c3. And now black needs to active his minor piece, knight c6, attacking this e5 pawn, which is only once defended. White castled, knight takes, improving the bishop of the d knight, h4, starting some progress on the king side, knight is going to g4, threatening to fork these two rooks. White defend, and now black wants to active minor pieces, and she's ready to sacrifice the pawn for that. He plays in this position, which is important move, e5. Simultaneously defend this knight and activating the bishop. Rook takes d5, bishop e6, attacking the rook, rook to d2, rook to d8. Black now wants to exchange a pair of rooks and get open file if it's possible. Rook is going to d1, rook takes, rook takes, and now rook to e8. It is always important to put the rook behind possible pawn which would be possible passed pawn. Now c3. Point of this move is to stop the progress of the knight on c6. e4, pushing the pawn. Rook e2, attacking the pawn. Bishop f5, protecting. And now h5, knight c to e5. And we can evaluate this position. First of all, black minor pieces are so active, especially these two knights, which are good position. Secondly, he has a passed pawn. And thirdly, rook is just a defender here. He has passive role. It has passive role, and queen is also a spectator with no active role. This all will result in soon defeat of the white position. Let's see now how black conducts this plan, his plan. The plan is to promote the pawn and to cause the troubles with that goal. h6 to make some complication king side, but it's late. e3, and king is going to d1. Why king to d1? If for example, white cannot give a check because of bishops, for example, takes the pawn, then knight d3 check, king d1, knight f2 check, and there is only one square left. King is going to c1, and after this open check with the bishop, king b3, and white takes the rook. Black takes the rook. It's the similar if, for example, king is going to c2, and then after knight to f4 and up and open check, it's the same. Black will get the rook for free. Because of that, king to d1 trying to save the game. Knight d3 again with the same idea. Rook e1, now offering the rook for the knight, but knight is going to f2, and this is the final blow. And after the white resigned. Why white resigned is the question. Because of this variation, there is no stopping progress of a black position and his minor pieces, supported with the rook from the behind and this passed pawn. King is going to e2. Knight takes the rook. King takes the knight, and knight d3 check. King is going to e2, and after knight c1 check, king f3, and now e2 going for the promotion. Queen stopping this. Knight e3, queen takes, and now rook not taking the queen because it can get without sacrificing the rook. There is a minor pieces here, not heavy rook. After king takes, rook takes, and black win this game. Or for example, if after knight check on c1, king f1, then check with the pawn, king protect, stopping progress of the pawn, but knight not for so long, not for so long. Knight d3 check, queen need to take the knight, and after bishop takes the queen. So because of all of this variation, white after this final move of knight to g to f2 check, white resigned, and he was right. I hope you have enjoyed watching this game and that everything was clear to you, and of course that you have learned what is important to observe when you want to exchange queen for equal material. Be free to post any feedback and press like and subscribe. Take care and bye.